the next topic. Kelechi Oki says for $4.99, heard one review for Daredevil and it's not good. Curious what Scribes and Gary from Nerdrotic thoughts on the show is. Isn't this Marvel's only chance this year? So yeah, let's move on to the next topic here, which is Daredevil Born Again, because now the first 2 episodes of Marvel's highly awaited Born Again, essentially season 4 of the Netflix series. Remember, it's now been 7 years since season 3, and this one picks up seemingly 1 year later. Now, of course, Scribe, you are known as the big comic book guy on the panel. There's more people that have seen this. Sure. But your first thoughts on Daredevil Born Again, without getting into too many spoilers here. What did you think of the first 2 episodes, both as pertains to compared with the comics and as a follow-up to the Netflix series?
Well, so I'm a big fan of the Netflix series. Season 1, I think, is one of the best comic book adaptations to TV I've ever seen, and especially honors the characters in a way that made me think of the first Iron Man film in a lot of ways.
Jessica Jones was a close second, I think.
Yeah, let's not talk about Jessica Jones.
Ooh. Well, first
man,
Jessica Jones is pretty good, actually.
Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Keep going. I derailed you.
No. So as far as this show is concerned, first I have to predicate everything by saying that I think, in part, I might be skewed by knowing the behind-the-scenes drama of this production, because as I watched these first 2 episodes, without giving away any spoilers, I was heartened at first by a lot of scenes that were just quiet, dialogue-driven, character-driven interactions, because you don't see that as much in some of these comic book TV shows as much anymore, because they just get straight to the action. Everything's very thin. And the strength of the original Daredevil series was on the strength of the characters. That being said, a lot of the production felt flimsy. A lot of the scenes felt almost on the edge of filler in some places. And they introduced new characters so suddenly and without any backstory or preamble, who weren't in the first series, who didn't even have an analogous compatriot in the first series, that when they showed up on screen and they were having interactions with some of our main characters in ways that felt far more intimate than they'd been established, it felt off. And it took away from the scenes and the weight of the interactions. So I was kind of torn between, I'm glad we're not having a mile-a-minute action, fest with special effects everywhere. I'm glad we get to see D'Onofrio and Cox actually act and interact with each other like they used to, and see some of these relationships either established or reestablished. But it still felt a little slapshot. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm not a technical guy, but I got this notion that everything felt a little bit rushed in places. I don't know what you guys thought, Script and Paul.
Yeah, Paul, you've seen it. Let's hear your thoughts before we get into the professional review, as in someone who actually does this for a living.
Hey.
Okay, fine. Someone who
else who does it for a living
actively writes this stuff right now. As
I used to do this for a living, so which doesn't count. One of the things as a writer I really like is quick interactions with new characters, and they're nailed with just a few lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, oh, okay, I'll see them later. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But one of the things with writing, there's a rule. You either, the words either have to establish character, establish plot, or move story along, and preferably both. Right. And I think they did that really, really well in this. You get both Script and I have talked about this before. It's really tiresome watching shows where the lines are interchangeable. Like, it doesn't matter which character says the line, right? And that's the sign of really bad writing. And in this particular case, even when they introduced the BB girl, right?
Mhm.
I thought they did that really well. It was fast. She was in and out of there. And I go, okay, I got it. I don't need to see any more. I didn't mind that at all. I thought that was great. I thought it was really neat how they incorporated, and I'm giving away a spoiler, the White Panther guy as being the person that Murdoch is defending in show 2. Yeah, that is a bit Deus Machina. It's very convenient that it's not just a guy who got stuck in this police shakedown and killed a cop. No, it's actually an important character that he's defending. But on the other hand, that's shorthand. It's way better that you get these convenient moments to compress story and move things along. Overall, first of all, I think they had way more gloss, way more budget than the Netflix ones. We saw way more external shots. New York was a character in this, in the way the Netflix shows didn't have New York as a character. There's things that are worse, things are better. There's 2 people that I'm missing from the show. The Frank Miller version actually had Karen strung out as a heroin addict or a drug addict. I mean, it's a very black version of this particular version. But I mean, but overall, it lived up to what Netflix started, and I was very happy for it. And maybe I was a little bit too giddy that it didn't suck. And I was really happy about the fact that we got to see Murdoch in episode 1 be really competent as Daredevil, and then be really competent as a lawyer. I've been complaining endlessly over the years that in both DC land and Marvel land, both studios have completely, or for the most part, completely ignored the alter egos of their characters.
Mm-hmm.
And in the comics, they were always, apart from Banner not Banner, but what's his name in Thor, who was kind of a useless.
Blake.
Donald
Blake
Blake
was kind of a worse. That wasn't a particularly good alter ego, but the alter egos are important. And I got tired of all soups all the time. And in this particular case, as Murdoch is working through his demons for actually potentially wanting to kill someone, which I think is a marvelous character flaw. There's just so many things, so many subplots. You've got that Soprano-esque thing happening between Fisk and Vanessa, and then the reporter, the BB reporter, actually reminds me a lot of oh god damn it, the other Netflix show with it doesn't matter.
Veronica Mars?
No, not Veronica Mars. The woman, the reporter who was killed by the House of Cards.
House of Cards. Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, the reporter. So could BB be, maybe she's going to be used by Fisk in a House of Cards kind of way. I thought that was interesting. His assistant, his obsequious assistant, I thought was really drawn very quickly, very, very well. And we'll see what happens to him. The
chief of staff type of character. Was
yeah.
good.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
The chief of staff. That's good. You got the psychologist. Is that a bit of a cheat? Did that come in too fast, too hard? Maybe.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. I thought overall the first 2 shows were good. You know what is funny? I realized I lost. Let me rephrase that. At some point, I went, I'm not watching a Disney show. They fooled me. I went, wow, I don't feel like I'm watching a Disney show. And so then that makes you think, well, what makes a Disney show? Well, they're bad.
Unfortunately, yeah,
Anyway.
that is what makes a Disney show.
So it's great.
Disney,
I mean, it's too bad that they had to explain stuff that happened in Echo, which nobody
man.
watched.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
was irritating.
That was awkward.
Well, actually, to your point, and also a correction, this series actually takes place a year after Echo and not a year after season 3. There's actually
Right.
it's been established in that bar that it's been many years since we last saw Daredevil with regards to the Netflix stuff. I thought the bar scene was pretty good. It dealt well with that introduction of Christian. And we saw what like the relationship that they had between her and Foggy was kind of fun because we clearly knew that Foggy was trying to pick her up in that scene. And then how it segued into the reveal of Bullseye, who at the end of season 3 was getting his spine repaired.
Yes.
And so that's not something yet you can get recovered over merely after a year. so we do. It's also established that he's been around, that there's been something else going on for a while. I thought narratively speaking, it was a strong start. I liked, they did the low hanging fruit, which is let's have Daredevil do all the visuals from the comic books of what Daredevil does, swinging around, using his billy club in inventive ways. And then let's also give a nod to what is part of the brand of the Daredevil show, which is the one take fight scene and do all the clever camera moves. I'm like, that's all cool stuff. I also appreciated how they are building up the Catholic faith aspect of Matt Murdock's journey, and also some certain reference points there. I mean, the first shot we see of Wilson Fisk is a reflection in a glass table, and there's a halo around him, and and I'm like, that's clearly a religious allegory aspect with regards to Fisk is now trying to be a very new man. He's trying to be a politician, and I also especially liked the fact that even though Matt Murdock doesn't trust him, we find out that everything about his campaign, everything about the finances is all as legit as possible. And it's clean. And it's like, okay, so we see the story of Fisk turning over a new leaf, trying to be something else. We also see Matt Murdock turning an over new leaf, trying to be something else. And then the world around them is going to pull them back to what their core characters are. And this is actually a repeated theme that's happened in the Netflix series.
Yes.
So they're holding up that, which I actually enjoyed. I do know there's probably going to be talking points about how when Fisk was away for a year and Vanessa took over operations, she did better. But I have to remind people, Vanessa was an art dealer. That is nothing but money laundering. Of course, she's going to be really good at that. So don't give me an identity politics aspect on that yet until we get something further down the line that actually solidifies it. Let's be a little objective here. I also dug how quickly they were able to establish the characters. Like BB, for instance, Heather was really good. The entire staff for Fisk really stood out. And even though I don't quite, I think Daniel is the only one whose name I really remember, but I could describe the other two personalities, like the chief of staff lady, who's basically experienced in politics and is trying to guide Fisk down the normal path, and Fisk is trying to go what his path is. So you have that like butting heads there. Then you have the guy in the middle who seems to be more of the administrative like assistant type, who you can tell he is basically a bootlicker to Fisk.
Well, we're all missing Wesley from the original series is the problem. Well, we all miss Wesley.
Hey, killed him.
I know, which is, it still ticks me off. It's like, man, anyway.
But I mean, a little bit of a spoiler, but I love the way that Fisk dealt with a commissioner who is beloved by the city, but Fisk calls him out on a piece of hypocrisy, and it's framed into a way where you think, oh, this is going to be like a targeted hit, but no, it's just typical blackmail, and it's all about the unethical presentation of what the commissioner is doing on the side, which is not necessarily criminal, but it's definitely showing him as a hypocrite. Right. And he's basically just saying, listen, I need you to stay, and I need you to do your job, and I'm not even going to say it in words, but I'm just going to show you this picture of something that you've been keeping a secret from everybody. And if the people that laud you find out, they're definitely going to turn on you, just as half the city is already hating the fact that Fisk is the mayor and the other half doesn't. And yes, there's probably a little bit of a Trump allegory there, but they're not playing it ham-fisted at all. And also the conversation between Fisk and Murdock in the coffee shop, which we saw in like some of the teaser trailers, that was brilliantly done.
Mm-hmm. It reminded me a little bit of Heat and Pacino and De Niro talking a little bit.
Yeah, and I like the thing that they're doing with Fisk and Vanessa, like, because again, the last time we saw them, they weren't married; they were still engaged. But now time has passed; they've been married for a while. She's been running his operations there, but there's a distance between them because Fisk decided to vanish for a year to recover, and he's got this brutal scar on his face from when he was shot in the face.
Right.
And Vanessa is resentful of that. So we're going to explore that journey. And we have the great irony is the fact that Matt Murdock's current new girlfriend is now the marriage counselor to these two. So we've got a potential there, a sort of Damocles presented. It's surprisingly well structured, given the fact that they had to rush writing and production of this right away in order to meet this deadline. So yeah, I think right now it's off to a strong start. And I'm hoping that it sticks its landing. And I am kind of thankful that they decided to split their 18 episode season into just 2 parts, because I think that will work out better for the momentum if they are indeed able to nail these in subsequent episodes.
Yeah. And as for me, I have only had time to see the first episode. I liked that first episode fine. But since I haven't seen the second, let alone anything else, I will defer judgment for the time being.
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 9 AM Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe and join us.